For Granted by me, Taylor Shaddix. I was alone in my room. It was 12 o'clock midnight. I was studying for my history test, which was the next morning. At the time, I was a junior in high school. Suddenly, I fell asleep and woke up from just a regular dream about my friend Stephen at 1:30 the next morning. From that moment, I would not know what the next day would bring. I'd never forget each minute of the next coming days. We were all friends. It was me, Drew, RJ, and Stephen. Drew, RJ, and Stephen always came over to my house to hang out. They were in ninth grade, and I was just in eighth grade. My heart filled with joy when we were all together. We always had fun. We'd play baseball during the day and video games at night. There was never an argument between us. We always got along until one day. Then I moved schools, and we tried to keep in touch. It was hard since I was at different schools and they were mad at me because I moved. As the time went by, their feelings changed, and I became a junior at my new school. It was November 5th, 2014. It was test day in history. Little did I know that I'd not be finishing that test. Not only would I not be finishing that test, but I also would not start that test. As soon as my teacher handed me the test, there was a knock at the door by a girl who was an office assistant. She called me to the principal's office. I felt uneasy because I'd never been called to the principal's office before. My stomach felt like it was on a roller coaster ride, and I began to sweat profusely. I suddenly started thinking of all the things that I could have done wrong, but my mind went blank. I passed a friend in the hallway and she asked where I was going, and she asked what did I do, laughing when she said it. And I said I got caught cheating on a test in a kidding manner, but I nervously just laughed it off. When I walked in the door, the first thing I saw was our counselor crying. Then I saw my principal behind his desk with a phone in his hand. That's when I knew nothing good was going to come from this. My mom was on the phone. My mom is normally a very loud person, but her tone was so soft it was almost a whisper. She said Taylor, and I knew it was going to be bad because I could tell she had been crying. Then she said it is Stephen. At that point, she didn't have to say anything else because I knew what she was going to say next. She said he's dead. He died at 1:30 this morning in a car wreck 3 minutes from my house on my road at the exact same time I woke up from my dream about him. Coincidence? I think not. But I immediately asked about RJ and Drew. She said they were not at school, but they wanted to see me and I wanted to see them too. Mom told me to meet her at her school where she worked and where I used to go to school with my friends. Then I called my dad and my pop to tell them. Somewhere in all that, I started crying, but I did not know what to do. Did not know it until I realized that I was walking down the hallway and saw my friends, and realized that I'd never see Stephen again. When I finally met RJ and Drew, they were more stunned than I was. They were just with him the day before. They told me everything I knew about it, and I told them my dream and how I woke up. None of us could believe it. The next few days were almost unreal. The day after I didn't go to school, and I went to work with my pop. While we worked, we talked about our memories of Stephen. When I was done working, I went back to the school I used to go to because they was having a special service that night for the student body. It was awful. Everybody was crying and upset, including me. His parents, though, when I talked to them, they were taking it the best. I didn't know how, though. His funeral was the next day. His funeral was more like a church service. We sang songs, and a preacher delivered a message with memories of Stephen in it. The message was to live your life like Stephen had. He never took anything for granted and always had time for everyone, and he hated to let people down. I took it to heart. To this day, me, Drew, and RJ miss him, and we talk about him every time we see each other. From that point, I never took anything for granted again, and I tried to live my life to the fullest just like Stephen did. I knew the impact Stephen had on my life was gone. He always brought a smile to my face. My life will ever be changed because I knew Stephen Dwayne Huddleston.